Hello, today I want to share with you a spiritual practice of prayer that you can use when words get in the way of your authentic interior conversation with prayer. I believe that the very human nature of nonverbal prayer is as old as mark making itself. After all, most of us grew up using crayons or markers long before we could use our words. The practice is simple, making marks to represent for you personally whatever is on your heart, then represent your relationship to that which you have laid down, and finally, place it all in relationship to whatever you name as holy. Let me show you. I use oil pastels on mixed media paper, but you can use anything to make your marks. Remember, the final product is not important. It's the process that matters because the process is prayer. I tape down the edges of my paper on a board because it helps to frame my prayer and protect the edges. And then I pause and breathe and ground myself and begin with the first step, which is calling to mind whatever is on my heart. In this video, I am recreating a prayer about violence and guns in the schools in the wake of another school shooting. I'm representing the pain and suffering on my heart with vertical red marks. If you were working through this prayer, you might use something different, maybe a steely gray band, an orange gash, or maybe a tiny black circle. At any rate, when you've laid down what's on your heart, you begin step 2, placing yourself in relationship to whatever you have laid down. In this case, I'm using earth and flesh-colored tones in relation to the pain. These shapes have a sense of rawness and vulnerability to them. One of the crayons I was using had a little bit of blue that smudged into the colors, and it seemed authentic to represent that as the bruising of pain that we experience in the wake of such brokenness. So I added more blue, and then I don't know what to name this which connects us in our experience of pain and vulnerability. Maybe it's community, maybe it's hope. But since I'm doing nonverbal prayer, I don't need to come up with the word for that which undergirds us in our pain, suggesting that there's more to our connection with one another beyond the confines of this paper. And there's more humanity as I work those colors into the image in relationship to our vulnerability and our hope. And then in the third step, I want to place this all within the divine. In my visual vocabulary, I find that inky dark purple oftentimes represents, for me, the divine or the holy, the sacred, which I am working up into the image and around the image as I reflect on how we are held and touched by the divine. I bring in more blue representing that pain and more vulnerability in that earthy or flesh tone. And then as I get into the very tender interface between these images and the divine, I sometimes use a sharp blending stump to work those colors together. And I smear the colors into one another and finally work that purple up into that arc of hope and connectivity because it has this sense of holding us all in infinite love. And as I complete my image, I very carefully tear off the tape that surrounds my prayer, easing it off at a 45-degree angle so that I don't tear the paper or smudge the image. And the paper comes off to reveal a crisply outlined prayer that I've completed as we are all affected by gun violence. In our cry for anguish, solidarity, and hope for change, may you find ways to create your own visual prayer when words fail for whatever is on your heart. Remember, this isn't artwork. It's a process, not a product. It's a prayer and practice whereby you can visually lay down what is on your heart, bring yourself into relationship with it, and finally surround it all in that which grounds you and holds you in infinite love.